You know, there's always something new to talk about on Ag PhD, but it seems like more than anything the last year or so, we've been talking about some really old products like 2,4-D and dicamba, especially with crops coming down the road here that are going to be tolerant to those two herbicides, especially soybeans and cotton, which is pretty exciting. However, we're still using these products just in a regular situation, especially in fall burn down.
Well, yeah, and the fall burn down thing might be a little new for you on your farm. I know for us, we just started doing some fall burn down maybe 5-7 years ago, something like that, when we switched a bunch of our no-till acres over to strip till. But whether it's no-till, strip till, for that matter, even conventional till if you want to, you can certainly use these products in the fall to eliminate especially winter annual weeds. That's really what we're targeting here. And we see more of them obviously in a no-till or strip till situation, because typically that fall tillage you do wipes out winter annuals. Well, if I want to avoid the fall tillage and save my soils a little bit more, reduce the erosion, I'm going to have things like dandelion, mare's tail, pennycress, a whole bunch of different winter annual weeds. I've got to get those under control now, because by spring they're going to be terrible.
When we're talking about 2,4-D and dicamba, we're going after broadleaf weeds that are tough to control. Both these products work well on broadleaves. They don't do much on grass. So in all likelihood, if you've got some grass out there as well, you're going to be mixing Roundup in with the 2,4-D or dicamba. Now, you may say, well, why not just use Roundup? Certainly we have some Roundup resistance, especially with things like mare's tail that were just mentioned. But you know, there are some weeds that we're more effective controlling with 2,4-D and dicamba than we would be with Roundup alone.
All right, let's take mare's tail for example. We used to have a big mare's tail problem on our farm 5 to 7 years ago, and I decided, hey, in the fall, we're gonna hit it with Banvel, and I just thought, you know, that pint rate, we've tried that a number of times in the spring. It's okay, but it's just not great. Let's go with a full quart. And to be honest, I had to check the label because I didn't know if a full quart was even labeled. Well, it is for use in the fall before going into corn. Now, I don't want to use Banvel or Clarity in the fall at a quart rate per acre if I'm going to plant soybeans or another broadleaf crop in the spring. But if I'm planting a grass crop in the spring, by all means, use that high rate of dicamba, a quart of Banvel or Clarity. I mean, it wiped out everything for us. Mare's tail, dandelions, all these winter annual weeds, and even some perennials we were fighting, they were all gone, and I had residual going into the spring because that's an incredibly high rate of Banvel or Clarity, double what you would normally use in crop. Let's get back to the real basics here. I mean, back when Darren and I were kids, the most important thing we focused on the farm was weed control. Why was that? Because every farmer knew if you didn't get all the weeds controlled, and I mean right away, you did not have top yields. So yeah, you can say, hey, it's going to cost me 20 bucks to make this application of a quart of Banvel in the fall, and oh, that's expensive. Well, yeah, it is, but if I can permanently eliminate my mare's tail problems and dandelions and some of these weeds we'd been fighting, you know, just kind of nipping a little bit here and there, and oh, that didn't quite do it, and that didn't quite do it, and now we got it in crop, and now it's the next year, and that, why? Just eliminate it once and for all. So you got to look at these things as return on investment. So in our situation, I'd still invest that $20 if I can eliminate my problem permanently.
I was just thinking about this. Let's just say you paid $5,000 an acre for ground. If you could pay $5,100 instead of $5,000, but for that extra $100, eliminate Canada thistle, eliminate mare's tail, eliminate dandelion, eliminate, you know, a whole bunch of different weed species, would you pay the extra $100? And I bet there's probably half of you that are saying, yeah, I'd pay the extra $100 if I never had to worry about those things. Hey, that's what we're talking about here.
Well,
maybe
it's
you
not
spend
never.
An extra, maybe
it's
you spend
not
an extra
never
20
have
bucks
to worry about it.
and you wipe out most of those weeds for a long time.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
All right, honestly, where a lot of the questions come from when we talk about fall weed control is guys that are going into soybeans. Now, you already eliminated one of our really good options. You said, well, you can't use that high rate of Banvel if you're going to plant soybeans next year. What can you use?
Well,
I'd use
I'd use 2,4-D. 2,4-D doesn't have nearly
in the fall.
Yeah, in the fall. I don't want to use it in the spring, but 2,4-D isn't going to last all the way from now until May 1st when we plant soybeans on our farm. It's just not going to happen. Could Banvel last that long if I use it at a quart rate? Yes, it could, especially in cold conditions. So yeah, I'd use 2,4-D at a high rate instead of the fall Banvel. I prefer fall Banvel where I can use it, Banvel or Clarity. But, oh, and by the way, that's the other thing. A lot of people say, oh, drift is such a big concern for Banvel and Clarity and 2,4-D. It's not a concern in the fall when everything's already dead. So that's one of the reasons too why I love spraying this in the fall, sometime in October, right after harvest. You go out, hit those weeds. You don't have to worry so much about killing flowers and trees and other crops or anything else.
You still have to be careful.
Right, I'm not saying drift all over the country. I'm just saying it's not nearly as big a concern, especially like the volatility side.
Well, one big concern that many farmers share is our weight of the week. We'll show you how to stop it coming up next.